In this video, I'm going to be discussing the edge margins settings in the Easy Composites Layout Designer. And what the edge margins does is defines the space that it will fit the layout into when you build the layout. It's also going to create guidelines for the top, bottom, left, and right, and it fits the layout to exactly fit that space. And it will take into account the text, so you can see that the text is fit to that bottom margin, and it will also take into account the border around the image. So that border is not going to extend past the margin. It will fit the edge of the borders to those margins. The important thing to know about the margins is it's always going to fit the design to the margins. And let me just do an example here. Let's do 2 rows of 7 instead of 4 rows of 7, and I'll just hit Create Layout Preview. So you see in this case, we've got a large gap between the first and the second row. And so this is really important to understand. It's always going to fit the layout to the space to fill the margins. I purposely designed it this way, and I've tried it both ways. The other way would be to define the spacing between the images left to right, and also the spacing top to bottom between the images. However, I found that was very difficult to fit a design space when doing that, because for example, if we brought these rows closer together, that then leaves us large gaps from the top and the bottom. So as a designer, I felt it was most important to always have the design fit the design space you want, and then you will adjust the number of rows and the number of images per row to make the design look good within that space. So that's just the way it works. So just know that. So the other thing I'll talk about too is for the edge margins, you've got just your narrow, normal, and wide margins, which will just space these further or closer to the edge, or you can create custom edge margins. So let's say, for example, you were building a memory mate and you only wanted the images on the right side of the template. So you can put your left margin, say we got a 20 by 16, let's just go 10. Now I'm looking at my spacing here, so let's say we need, I don't know, 6 rows. I don't know, I'm just looking at the spacing to try to give me something that's going to look okay. Let's say I don't know. Let's just build something like this and do a layout preview. So you can see we've got now 5 rows of 4 on the edge here. We probably could have went 5 rows of 5, but you can just play around with this and get your margins and your spacing wherever you want. And so you could even, let's say we wanted more space on the top here to put some text, for example. So you have pretty much complete control of the design space you're filling that design into with your edge margins. And then you'll have to adjust the numbers per row and the number of rows to make those look good within that space. But regardless, it always fills that space. I know I've repeated that several times, but that is a very, very important concept when using the layout designer. So anyway, make sure to watch the next video on your slot spacing, because you can change the spacing between the slots, but you have to do that together with changing the number of images per row and the counts per or the number of rows and the number per row to get those to kind of fit together just right. So make sure to watch that next video on the slot spacing, and I'll show you how those work as well.